Hi everyone, here we are for our last video, for our last part of our presentation on finding your internal leader. Let's get started. Now that we've explored the political complexities at the city and county levels, we're going to shift our focus to a key skill that will help you navigate these challenges: effective communication. Building strong relationships with city and county officials is crucial for achieving any goals and fostering collaboration. We'll finish up our presentation by exploring the power of feedback, emotional intelligence, and how understanding these different personality types can enhance our interactions and strengthen these important connections. As city and county clerks, information flows through your offices constantly. But are you truly absorbing the nuances and underlining messages from those around you? There's an art form to moving beyond simply hearing words to actually developing deeper understanding. First is to try to infer the unspoken needs or expectations of others. For example, a comment about a slow process might implicitly mean that a colleague or citizen might mean that they need greater efficiency or reduced workload. Consider the broader context that could surround certain feedback someone might be giving you. What are the current pressures, priorities, or challenges facing the official or their department? Work to respect the power of silence. Don't feel the need to fill every pause in a given conversation. Sometimes allowing for silence gives officials time to reflect and share more in-depth thoughts. It also gives you time to process what has just been said. Related to everything that we've discussed so far is this important notion of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is basically how well we understand and manage both our own emotions and the emotions of others. It's a key ingredient for navigating the interpersonal dynamics you face with city and county officials. The following clip will demonstrate a little bit more about the value of developing emotional intelligence in the workplace and how we can actually execute it. I'll see you after the clip.
If you're an aspiring leader or manager, there's an important element you need to consider when evaluating your knowledge and skills: emotional intelligence. Also known as emotional quotient, or EQ, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage your emotions and those of the people around you. Emotional intelligence is typically divided into 4 competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Self-awareness is at emotional intelligence's core. It's your ability to not only understand your strengths and weaknesses, but recognize your emotions and how they affect you and your team. Self-management is your capacity to manage your emotions, particularly in stressful situations, and maintain a positive outlook despite setbacks. Social awareness is your aptitude for recognizing others' emotions and organizational dynamics. Those who excel in social awareness practice empathy. They strive to understand colleagues' feelings and perspectives so they can be better communicators and collaborators. Relationship management is your capability to resolve conflict and influence, coach, and mentor others. It requires both self and social awareness and channeling them into interactions. Building your emotional intelligence helps you grow as a leader and motivate and coach colleagues more effectively. In turn, you can advance your career and organization.
And so what we see there is that emotional intelligence is the ability to be able to understand your own emotional state, but also to read the emotional state of others and to respond in a way that will help them to feel both validated as well as for you to have your perspectives respected. Ways to achieve emotional intelligence. Tune in. Pay deliberate attention to the emotions that are present in your interactions, both for verbal as well as nonverbal cues. It's important here to really pay attention to the nonverbal cues. Research has indicated that of what we mean is reflected in up to 93% of how we say something rather than the words that we choose. So if I ask my wife, "How was your day?" and she goes, "Fine," I know that things are not fine and I'm terrified. Ask yourself, what are you sensing? What might the other person be feeling? Pause and then process. Before reacting, and it is so easy to react, especially when there are challenging situations, take a brief pause to breathe and to understand what your emotional response is and what's triggering that response. This allows for a more thoughtful and constructive reply. Seek to understand. Practice seeing things from the other person's perspective, or empathy. Ask yourself, why might they be feeling this way? This will then foster the empathy I just mentioned. Then respond thoughtfully. Choose your words and actions with consideration for the emotional impact that they might end up having. Aim for clear, respectful, and constructive communication. In any interaction, whether with a politician, a client, or a colleague, people bring different perspectives and priorities. In other words, we all wear different hats. Being able to persuade others involves recognizing what hat they're wearing in any given situation. And knowing that hat I have on in a given situation will give you insight into my priorities, goals, best ways to communicate with me. So what I've done is I've compiled through my research 6 of the most common personality profiles that tend to be taken on by individuals in both the city and county government level. And I'm going to give a description for each, a motivation for what they might be thinking or trying to achieve, potential problems that they might present in getting work at the city and county level accomplished, and what might be the best means of persuading individuals of this personality type. So the first I call the big picture thinker. They tend to be focused on the long haul. They're a big picture person. They're not worried about today's potholes. They're thinking 20 years down the road. What motivates them? They tend to be motivated by shaping the future to leave a positive legacy. They identify opportunities as well as future challenges. Now, problems that they can present is that they may overlook immediate needs or real constraints. They could be bad with dealing on details or slow in terms of making progress, and they often tend to have unrealistic plans. Now, the best means of persuading an individual of this type is to provide data-driven projects, offer realistic timelines which are grounded in practicalities. Second personality profile that really stood out in the research is the individual at the city or government level who wants to always do what's right. They're the conscience of the group. They care about the community as a whole. They make tough calls, which may not always make them popular, for doing what they believe is right. They are motivated by a strong sense of responsibility to the community. They tend to prioritize the greater good as well as long-term sustainability. The problems that can arise from this personality profile is that they can appear out of touch with public opinion. They can be seen as rigid or inflexible, and they come at the risk of being overly righteous. The best means of persuading is to provide comprehensive plans and considering many points of view. Show the actions that you are suggesting align with community values. Acknowledge the difficulty in trying to do what's right instead of what might be easy. Another personality that we see into this range is the I'm here to help. They tend to be all about the folks in the community. They want to focus on immediate problems, and they tend to get from many different residents. They tend to be driven to serve and being accessible and responsible to voters. Now, the potential for problems because they might focus on individual cases instead of systemic issues. They may become overwhelmed by constituent demands or the risk of making promises that could be too hard to actually keep. The best means of persuading here is to give efficient systems for addressing concerns and to offer data on the overall impact of decision and to support their desire to connect while also balancing the need for practicality. Another that we have is the let's work together personality profile. They love to build bridges and they try to find common ground, wanting everyone to get along. They tend to be motivated by collaboration, uniting diverse groups to find common ground and harmony. They may be problematic because they are focused on avoiding conflict. They may be seen as indecisive or prioritizing processes over outcomes. Best approach of persuading is to help structure your discussion to ensure productivity and to balance building relationships while also being focused on goals. Now we have the judge. Not the literal judge, but individuals who tend to be very objective. They want to make all facts laid out before having a decision made. They're less about the back and forth and more about, here's the evidence, here's my vote. They tend to value fairness, objectivity, and logic. They value data, evidence, and clear analysis, and as well as impartial decisions based on facts. And they have the risk of analysis paralysis because they love to have the facts around them. It's so easy to feel that you get caught up in too many facts that you don't know what's the best way forward. The best means of persuading here is to provide clear, concise, well-organized information, and to present data to support recommendations while also respecting the needs for objectivity while highlighting the need for speed of accuracy. And then the last profile that we have is that of the watchdog. They are all about accountability, making sure that everyone follows the rules. They want to make sure that money is spent wisely and that the staff does what they need to. They ask the tough questions. They are motivated by a desire for accountability, transparency, and integrity. They value scrutiny, monitoring, and compliance, and they seek to prevent waste. Now, they risk being seen as overly suspicious or adversarial, willing to butt heads, and they can create a climate of fear or distrust. The best way to persuade or to deal with the watchdog mentality is to provide regular and detailed reports, be as transparent as possible about processes, and to welcome their questions and to provide those honest answers. Well, folks, we've had a long conversation over many videos. We've learned how to identify influence and to discuss ways to nurture and to leverage it effectively. We have explored the difference between your assigned roles and your actual power, helping you to understand your true leadership capabilities. We've delved into the complexities at the city and county levels, equipping you with skills to maneuver through those political landscapes. We've focused on techniques to build strong relationships with city and county officials, enhancing your communication skills for better collaboration. And in the end, we have taken several practical steps towards recognizing and asserting your authority as influential leaders, aiming to make a significant impact in your community. Thank you for your time, and I wish you the best.